A boy named Hidaka gets mocked and bullied daily by his classmates. One day, he becomes so irritated that he decides to jump off the roof. As he jumps, he finds himself in another world, summoned along with his classmates, whom he wishes never to see again. Stuck in the same bullying routine, he tends to stay behind. Assigned to the healer class, their instructor, who is the queen, appears as a very nasty woman and teleports the poor guy into a dungeon where he won't survive even a second. He continues to walk and struggle for days, ending up in a room with treasure boxes. Out of one box, he finds a potion that blesses him with a unique skill that can reverse any skill he has. Using his reversal magic technique, he learns many powerful magic skills. Defeating monsters scaled at level 500, he easily levels up by a huge fraction, wondering if it is any good compared to world standards. He finds a staircase that magically transports him to a forest. There, he learns that most of the powerful people of the world are around level 40 and are no match for him. He makes new friends in this new world who truly care for him. As his new life gives him a purpose to live, he decides to get his revenge and then return to his friends, whom he now thinks of as his family. As the school bell rings, some students are seen bullying a boy, giving him coins, and forcing him to get drinks for them. His name is Hidaka Masamune, and getting bullied has become his routine. His classmates treat him like a slave, making him do all their chores. For him, life appears entirely black and white, with happiness always avoiding him. As he is getting bullied by some boys, a girl named Kawachi approaches them and inquires if they are bullying Hidaka again. She mocks them for being in high school while behaving like schoolyard bullies. The bullies claim they only asked Hidaka to buy drinks for them and insist there is nothing wrong with that. They force Hidaka to tell the girl that she has the wrong idea, claiming they are just friends. Kawachi inquires if Hidaka is okay with this situation. Pressured by the bullies, Hidaka responds that they are his friends, and he has no idea what she is talking about. In the process of bullying, there are 4 types of people. The first are the bullies, the second are those who support the bullies, the third are those who just stand by doing nothing, and the fourth is the victim who gets bullied. Throughout his life, Hidaka has been the 4th type of person. As Hidaka gets out of the class, instead of going to the canteen to buy the drinks, he heads to the school roof. Feeling heartbroken and frustrated, he accuses the world of being broken. He approaches the edge of the roof with the intention of committing suicide. As he jumps off, he bids goodbye to this selfish world, thinking that he never desired death, but he no longer wanted to live. He remembers the faces of his classmates and is certain that his death will not affect them in any way. As he falls from the roof, Hidaka Masamune closes his eyes, imagining a sense of relief surging through his body, forgetting about his parents and family, who might have cared for him. In death, he believes he will never be bullied again, or so he thought. In reality, Hidaka does actually die, but then, all of a sudden, his eyes open. He becomes petrified after seeing himself inside a castle. Wondering where he is, he notices many humans in mage costumes nearby, shouting that they have succeeded. As the king welcomes him and all his classmates as heroes, it becomes clear that this kingdom has performed rituals to summon humans from other worlds as heroes. While everyone from Earth appears puzzled, the king introduces himself as Johannes Greyberg, the 47th king of the Greyberg kingdom. He explains that for years his kingdom has been engaged in an all-out war against some magical entities, with no end in sight. Therefore, his kingdom had no other option but to summon heroes and rely on them. He tells them that it has been written in their books that the summoned heroes will possess great powers and skills. Hearing all this, Siki becomes furious and calls it nonsense. He accuses the king of kidnapping all of them. To answer his queries, the king demonstrates what magic is by destroying the floor in front of him. He apologizes for surprising Siki, but explains that showing something is the easiest way to make someone believe. This only makes the boy angrier. Before he can unleash his anger in front of the king, one of his classmates named Ichijo Yukimura makes him realize that they are surrounded by guards and it would be unwise to pick a fight with the king. He advises Siki to at least hear the king out, and some other students agree with him. As Siki calms down, the king continues, explaining that they have no intention of harming the heroes. Summoning even one person requires an immense amount of power, let alone so many. He asks them all to check their occupations by saying the word status. When Siki utters status, a panel opens before his eyes, revealing his occupation as a mage. An instructor who is observing all the summoned humans shouts in excitement, informing the king that Siki is a mage ranked at the top of the night class. She becomes even more thrilled upon learning that Ichijo holds the title of hero. Seeing everyone else excited and happy, Hidaka feels jealous, thinking that those who were already content will now get to live an even better life. Thinking about all that, he decides to open his status panel, hoping for something good this time in his life. As he opens it, he discovers his occupation is listed as a healer. Feeling resistant, he asks the instructor lady if the healer class is any good. With a cold expression, she informs him that the healer class is considered the weakest. Upon hearing this, Siki, who had bullied Hidaka in school, begins to mock him again. Kawachi stands up for Hidaka, urging Siki to stop, as they don't yet know how useful his skills could be. Ichijo also approaches Siki, cautioning him to slow down. As they argue, an elderly dwarf-sized man approaches Hidaka and questions why he is the only one with the title of reincarnated. As everyone suddenly glares at Hidaka, he nervously grips his pants. Sweat drips down his face as he confesses that he jumped from the roof of his school. The old man doesn't press him further, and the instructor gathers everyone for her detailed explanations. She briefly explains that in order for them to grow stronger, they will first be enrolled in a magic school. Guiding them to a magic circle, she prepares to teleport them to their new school's dormitories. As they gather up, Siki once again irritates Hidaka by calling him garbage. Hidaka, who had chosen not to live and stopped living, finds himself stuck in the same daily miserable routine even after dying. As Siki continues to mock him, Hidaka becomes enraged and questions if bullying is really that enjoyable. Siki, hearing this, grabs Hidaka by his collar and demands to know what he just said. Hidaka tells Siki that he makes him sick to his stomach. Hidaka then shouts and declares that he refuses to go along with the group. The instructor, who already harbored animosity towards him upon learning he was a healer, coldly informs him that upon realizing his perceived uselessness, she considered transporting him to a different location from the others. She explains that this random transportation is a security measure designed to ensure their safety. Hearing about the security system, Hidaka tells the instructor that he is thankful. The teacher gives him a death stare, emphasizing that this system is solely for their aid, and he has nothing to do with it. She shouts in frustration that despite using the system to summon great and powerful heroes, they ended up with a mere healer. Siki approaches Hidaka and calls him trash once again. The instructor accuses Hidaka of wasting their effort and hope, warning him that he will pay for it with his life. Overwhelmed with tears and anger, Hidaka questions why it always has to be him who suffers. Before being transported to a random location, he vows to seek revenge and destroy them all, vowing to kill every single one of them. As he gets transported, he finds himself in what appears to be a cave or perhaps a dungeon. He continues walking in a straight line, losing track of time. Curious, he opens his status panel again and notices some peculiar statuses, like Otherworld Obsession Syndrome. But he quickly closes it, dismissing them as irrelevant, since he still considers himself the weakest. As he continues to walk in the darkness, barely able to see, he discovers a torch. Lighting it up, he finds himself in a room with several treasure chests, which he suspects might be a mimic monster. Opening the first chest reveals it to be empty, but undeterred, he proceeds to open the others. In the next chest, he discovers a small bottle. Wondering if it might be poison, a sudden voice urges him to drink it. The voice asks if he desires more power, encouraging him to drink every last drop. Reflecting on his miserable life, he wants to believe this could be his chance. With nervous anticipation, he raises the bottle to his lips, unsure yet willing to take the risk, if this world truly offers him an opportunity. He takes the gamble with the potion, reasoning that nothing could be worse than dying in this labyrinthine dungeon. As he finishes drinking the potion, he suddenly feels dizzy, and the bottle slips from his hand, shattering on the ground. The scene shifts to the student dormitory, where Siki comments on the beauty of instructor Aries. Kawachi disagrees, finding her dangerous. Siki remains stubborn, asserting that there's no rose without thorns. With a smile, he warns Kawachi to be cautious with her words, as there would be no saving her if she ended up like Hidaka. Ichijo questions Siki if he truly finds what happened with Hidaka amusing. Siki feigns innocence and criticizes Ichijo for being overly sensitive. Kawachi then turns to Kita, asking why he stood by without intervening when instructor Aries sent Hidaka away. She holds him accountable and assigns him blame, but Kita defends himself, stating that he doesn't bully anyone. Siki then shouts at Kawachi to stop pressuring Kita, asserting that everything has already been done, and no amount of blame will bring Hidaka back. He states there's no point in arguing, as Hidaka would already be dead. Meanwhile, the scene shifts back to Hidaka, who is seen lying unconscious on the ground. He wakes up with a severe headache, wondering if nothing has changed after drinking the potion. As he looks around, he notices that his vision is significantly clearer and wonders if the only effect of the potion is to improve his eyesight. There is still one chest left unopened, and despite his dwindling expectations, Hidaka decides to open it. As he does, a creaking noise is heard, and the chest reveals itself to be a mimic monster, just as he had suspected. The hungry treasure chest monster bites his arm, causing it to bleed heavily. Desperate to save himself, Hidaka flees towards the room's exit, and the mimic monster closes its lid behind him. Once outside, Hidaka repeatedly heals his wounded arm, frustrated with his luck and feeling limited by his healing abilities. Pondering how he can possibly defeat such a monster, a system panel suddenly appears before his eyes. There, he discovers an advanced and unique skill called Mischievous Reversal. The system informs him that he acquired this skill from drinking the deity of revenge's secret medicine. The system further elaborates that his new skill allows him to apply the mischievous reversal effect to any target he chooses. When used on a positive status, it converts it into a negative one. For instance, if applied to a life effect, it transforms into a death effect. Confused yet excited, Hidaka tests his new skill on his healing magic. He hears the voice of the system lady and discovers that his healing magic has been reversed into a technique known as waves of erosion. The system explains that this skill sends out moving waves in a spherical formation, draining the life force of anything it touches. It also informs him that the radius of this magic technique scales with the user's magic power. Seeing such a powerful new skill in his arsenal fills him with hope. Hidaka wonders if he can now defeat the treasure monster. He knows that as long as he doesn't open it, the mimic won't attack him. He could easily escape, but he's determined to seek revenge for his injured hand. With trembling hands and sweat dripping from his face, he struggles to stay calm and uses his new skill. To his shock, he witnesses the skill's power firsthand, as it obliterates the mimic monster into smithereens. As he defeats the monster, Divine Protection activates, presenting him with a choice of 3 rewards. The first option is a camouflage skill, the second is a precious infinite space chest, and the third is just a recovery medicine. Choosing the precious infinite space chest over camouflage, Hidaka finds it incredibly convenient and potentially very useful. One surprise after another, he learns that the monster he defeated was at level 500, resulting in a substantial level up for him. Another system sound alerts him to the fact that even magic skills can level up. His magic technique, Waves of Erosion, rapidly levels up from level 1 to its maximum. Additionally, he learns new magic techniques including Healing Waves, Cure Abnormal Status, and Attribute Enhancement, all of which also level up from 1 to their maximum levels. As he checks his status menu, Hidaka is surprised by how rapidly he has grown, already reaching level 150. However, he doubts if these stats are truly strong by the standards of this new world, of which he is still unaware. He recalls his despised classmates, and wonders if they might still be more powerful than him. Having opened all the chests, and with nothing left to do in the room, he decides to leave. As he walks, he encounters a looming, ominous gate. Attempting to push it open proves futile, so he uses his Waves of Erosion skill. To his surprise, the skill creates a huge hole in the door. Moving forward, he discovers a staff hovering inside. He recalls similar scenarios from fantasy games, and rushes towards the hovering staff. However, as he approaches, he is suddenly pushed back, and the entire room begins to shake. Without warning, a stone guardian materializes and attacks him, narrowly avoiding his dodge. Determined not to die again, Hidaka quickly uses an enhanced defense skill on himself. When the guardian's sword gets stuck in the ground, he sees an opportunity and immediately unleashes his Waves of Erosion on the colossal monster. Thinking he has emerged victorious, he is abruptly slammed back against the wall. Confused, he realizes he was kicked by the colossal giant. Celebrating victory before it's won was a terrible mistake. He vomits blood, but manages to heal himself, grateful that his enhanced defense skill saved him from certain death. Barely able to stand, Hidaka resolves to make another attempt. Using his Waves of Erosion skill once more, he successfully brings down the colossal giant. His victory earns him a new skill called Mimic's Life, revealing that the giant was also a mimic monster, albeit at level 400. With this triumph, his level rises to 212. However, he cannot shake the deep-seated resentment he harbors for being labeled the weakest by Ares. After defeating the guardian monster, he retrieves a magic tool known as the Wrath of Saints, containing intermediate-class holy light magic. The scene shifts to Greyberg Academy, where the hero Ichijo appears exhausted from training to harness the immense power of his explosion magic, under the tutelage of lecturer Philip Battler. Despite his fatigue, he remains determined to grow stronger, feeling the weight of his responsibilities as the hero. Meanwhile, two students sit under a tree with frustration evident on their faces. They grumble about their lecturer's criticism that their magic power isn't sufficient, contrasting it with Ichijo's ability to use magic effectively. They mock Ichijo for labeling himself a hero, despite lacking bravery and easily tiring out. One of them argues that being called a hero and deserving the title are two entirely different things, suggesting their titles might be mere decorations. The scene shifts back to Hidaka Masamune, who discovers a bottle of alcohol and, feeling thirsty, decides to drink it. Continuing on, he finds himself facing a door. Opening it, he is surprised to stumble upon a pantry in the middle of nowhere. Intrigued, he spots another door nearby and debates whether to explore further. Peeking inside, he discovers the King of Snakes, Sheion, seated on a throne. Sheion warmly welcomes him and asks his bat, Zuri, how many years have passed since the last adventurer arrived. Zuri informs Sheion that it has been 150 years. Sheion, seemingly lost in time, rises and announces a party to celebrate the occasion. Sheion introduces himself and clarifies to Hidaka that by party, he meant their deadly battle. In a flash, before Hidaka can react, the King of Snakes stabs him in the abdomen. Shocked by the speed of Sheion's attack, Hidaka wonders how he couldn't track the king's movements. After stabbing Hidaka, Sheion laughs and draws his sword, teasing that he has waited ages to witness such a miserable expression. Sheion remarks that the quality of adventurers has significantly declined, and questions Hidaka if he is a priest, given his inability to anticipate the attack. Zuri corrects his master, revealing that Hidaka is not a priest, but merely a healer. Sheion is incredulous that a healer like Hidaka managed to reach him. Zuri begins to explain that aside from his healing abilities, Hidaka appears strange. But before completing its description, it disintegrates into thin air under the holy magic emitted by Hidaka's new staff. Witnessing his pet vanish enraged Sheion. He aims his sword at Hidaka, but before he can strike, Hidaka uses waves of erosion to shatter the sword. This further infuriates the King of Snakes, who challenges Hidaka to leave immediately. With his broken sword, Sheion slashes at Hidaka's arm, causing serious injury. Frustrated by Sheion's speed, Hidaka quickly employs his healing magic on his wounded arm. The King of Snakes presses Hidaka for his true identity, skeptical that he is merely a healer capable of killing his beloved pet Zuri. Hidaka insists that Zuri only told him he was a healer, but Sheion accuses him of lying and threatens to continue slashing him until he confesses. He believes Hidaka intentionally killed Zuri because the bat knew too much about him. Sheion demands to know Hidaka's name. Remembering Siki's mocking label of him as a NEET, Hidaka decides to embrace it and make a name for himself as NEET. He resolves to seek revenge against those who cast him away as nothing more than a NEET. To be killed by a mere NEET, what a level of humiliation and revenge that would be. He tells Sheion to call him NEET, but the King of Snakes mocks him by twisting it into NET. Sheion persistently interrogates Hidaka, repeatedly demanding to know his true identity. But Hidaka insists he is only a healer. This frustrates Sheion, who grows bored and begins slashing Hidaka all over his body. As Sheion prepares his final strike, Hidaka experiences a flashback of his past bullying, and, fueled by this memory, unleashes waves of erosion once more, finally defeating the Snake King. As the defeated King of Snakes lies down, he reflects on his decline over the past 150 years. He acknowledges Hidaka's strength in defeating him, and requests that Hidaka conceal his identity. Sheion reveals that he has existed for roughly a millennium, and was once renowned throughout the kingdom. He believes no one would believe he was defeated by a mere healer. Sheion advises Hidaka to keep his abilities hidden. He warns that if others discover his powers, they will covet them, emphasizing that power always attracts attention and can make one a target. He explains that due to his low-grade occupation, people will naturally underestimate him, making it wiser to conceal his true identity, whether Hidaka agrees or not. Hidaka asks the Serpent King if he can pose a question. Sheion, in gratitude for being defeated, agrees. Hidaka then inquires if Sheion has ever encountered someone known as the deity of revenge. Sheion's mind flashes back, recalling a person he once met who had adopted the name deity of revenge to conceal their true identity. Sheion smiles knowingly and informs Hidaka that he comprehends the situation. He explains that the name deity of revenge holds nostalgic significance for him. However, when Hidaka presses for more information, Sheion cryptically states that it was a code name for an adventurer, burdened with a curse. He suggests that Hidaka will understand its significance as he journeys through the lands. Shion asks Hidaka for his real name. Hidaka is surprised that Shion knew his previous name was fake, but he decides to reveal his true name. Shion begins to reminisce about their conversation, but before he can finish his sentence, he passes away with a peaceful smile on his face. Well, so much for being a healer. Couldn't Hidaka heal the poor old geezer? As the old man passes away, Hidaka is rewarded with Shion's sword, the serpent sword Kiljil's. He briefly wonders if a healer like him can effectively wield such a weapon, but decides to keep it as a memento of his fallen enemy. Alongside the sword, he also acquires new skills, the unique skill Flash and the skill Magic Eye of Truth, earned from defeating both the Serpent King and his eyeball pet. Hidaka ponders the nature of the Flash skill, questioning if it was the source of Shion's speed, and why the king did not vanish upon defeat. Determined to understand these mysteries once he escapes, he encounters a staircase, and hopes it leads outside. With a resolute determination to survive until he exacts his revenge, he continues his journey forward. As he ascends the endless staircase, he drinks continuously, using his ability to neutralize toxins. Suddenly, a voice warns him from behind, but before he can react, he finds himself transported into a mysterious forest. Sensing a strange familiarity, he disregards it, choosing to cheer up after escaping his previous location. Upon exiting, Hidaka hears heated arguments nearby. Turning, he spots several boys and a girl. One of them suspects Hidaka has eavesdropped and moves aggressively toward him, intent on attacking. Attempting to clarify, Hidaka insists they talk first. Ignoring his plea, the assailant unleashes a powerful strike. Using the magic skill he acquired from defeating Shion, Hidaka casts Flash and swiftly positions his sword at the girl's neck. Calmly, he commands Jeek, his attacker, to cease his actions. He urges both Jeek and his companion to sheathe their swords. The girl interjects, advising Jeek to comply since further conflict seems futile. Relenting, Jeek drives his sword into the ground and surrenders. He pleads with Hidaka to release the girl, but Hidaka, wary of potential deceit, questions Jeek's sincerity. Jeek reassures him that he no longer desires confrontation. Hidaka gently pats the girl on the back and allows her to step away. Bid farewell, Hidaka turns to leave, but Jeek calls out, asking him to wait. Hidaka responds icily, questioning Jeek's motives after the recent attack. Jeek introduces himself, but Hidaka shows no interest. Cutting to the chase, Jeek asks for Hidaka's assistance, inviting him to join their quest. Uninterested, Hidaka dismisses them, suggesting they seek help elsewhere. Frustrated, Jeek's temper flares, and he unleashes his flame hammer spell on Hidaka. Reacting swiftly, Hidaka activates his Eye of Truth to analyze Jeek's system panel. What he discovers surprises him. Jeek is only at level 48. As Jeek casts Flame Hammer, he taunts Hidaka, expressing jealousy over his proficiency in magic. Accusing Hidaka of belittling him by considering himself weak, Jeek confronts him aggressively. As Jeek unleashes his Flame Hammer skill, Hidaka seizes the opportunity to test his newly acquired skill, Soul Break. Employing this technique, crafted using his mischievous reversal magic, he effortlessly nullifies Jeek's attack, leaving Jeek visibly unsettled. Hidaka had developed Soul Break while ascending the stairs, meticulously refining it over time. He had hesitated to deploy it earlier, unsure of its range and effects, and unwilling to risk unintended consequences for himself. Hidaka warns Jeek that he should be prepared for the consequences of his actions. Just as he is about to retaliate with magic, the girl grabs his arm and implores him to forgive Jeek. She acknowledges the seriousness of Jeek's actions, but pleads for mercy on his behalf. In that moment, Hidaka recalls his own experiences of being bullied and resolves not to mirror the cruelty he endured. He decides to forgive Jeek. As he prepares to leave once more, Jeek persists in urging him to join their group. Jeek explains that he sensed great power within Hidaka from the beginning and believes he would be a valuable addition to their quest for strong allies. Jeek explains that their party operates under the supervision of a larger organization, making it exclusive. Hidaka questions what he stands to gain from joining them. Jeek promises him wealth beyond imagination, but Hidaka responds coldly, stating he desires nothing, and doubts they could fulfill any genuine desires he might have. Interrupting, the girl prevents Jeek from pressing further and suggests that Hidaka accept a magic tool as a token. She explains it will allow him to communicate with them effortlessly, regardless of distance, as long as it has mana. Jeek urges Hidaka to accept it, and keep it in case he has a change of heart. They introduce themselves formally as members of an organization, called Dragon's Heart, dedicated to preserving world peace and eliminating corruption. Hidaka sheaths his sword and asks if they might have mistaken him for someone else, given their pursuit of him. Jeek and the girl clarify that they were investigating a recent devastating attack on a nearby duke's territory, where no one was spared. Their mission was to gather any possible leads. Understanding their reasoning, Hidaka agrees and stows the ring and his sword in his dimensional space. As Dragon's Heart marvels at his dimensional storage, Hidaka asks if such storage is rare. They confirm it's exceptionally rare, even a first for them to encounter. As they prepare to part ways, Hidaka queries their destination. Dragon's Heart informs him they are investigating reports that the Greyberg Kingdom summoned a group of heroes a month earlier. Surprised to learn of the time discrepancy, he thought only a few days had passed in the dungeon. Hidaka is taken aback. Jeek then asks Hidaka where he plans to go next. Unfamiliar with this new world, Hidaka mentions heading to a town. The girl specifically asks if he means Razuhasen town, estimating it would take 3 days on foot. Mid-conversation, she realizes they haven't even asked his name yet. Hidaka decides to conceal his true identity and introduces himself as Nito before departing. He walks for some time without encountering any monsters, growing tired until a pack of wolves suddenly appears. Excited at the prospect of hunting them, he uses his Eye of Truth on the wolves and is surprised to discover they are only level 8. Despite their low level, Hidaka still enjoys the thrill of clearing the area of these beasts. However, before he can strike, a girl swiftly intervenes, effortlessly dispatching all the wolves in an instant. She underestimates Hidaka's capabilities, warning him of the danger of being alone, and asking if he's injured. Hidaka uses his skill to learn that the girl's name is Sierra Ecarlat, and she is at level 32. He feigns gratitude, telling her he's fine thanks to her intervention, though she notices his lack of enthusiasm. Before Sierra can inquire further, a merchant named William Vector approaches, calling out to her. He introduces himself and identifies Hidaka as a merchant, then invites both Hidaka and Sierra to accompany him. William also introduces his escort, Keith. Sierra joins in the introductions, and Hidaka reciprocates by introducing himself as Nito. Sierra eyes Hidaka suspiciously, commenting on the peculiarity of his name. William explains that he's currently transporting goods to Razuhasen town and offers Sierra a ride in exchange for serving as her guard for the short journey. Hidaka apologizes for any inconvenience he might cause, but William reassures him, stating he's comfortable with more guards. He praises Sierra for her vigilance, noting how she quickly reacted to a presence, and commending her as a White King's knight. Sierra blushes at the compliment, modestly downplaying her actions to William. Hidaka appears confused and asks William about the White King's knight he mentioned. The merchant is surprised that Hidaka is unfamiliar with it and explains that in the lands of Razuhasen, several generations of kings have ruled, with the current king being Arnold Razuhasen. The unit that directly serves under the king is known as the White King's Knights. William elaborates that the existence of these knights is shrouded in uncertainty, akin to a rare miracle to encounter one of them anywhere. Why do these guys act like NPCs? Since he's uncertain, why can't he just ask the girl directly? After all, she's a member of this so-called unit herself. Hidaka is lost in his thoughts, imagining Sierra as a heroine of this world. He never expected to meet such a beautiful silver-haired girl. Sierra compliments the merchant, noting his widespread fame. Despite his humble demeanor, he is well known throughout the mercantile world. She explains to Hidaka that he is renowned across many countries for his dealings with rare and valuable items, which is why he requires guards. As their conversation continues, William asks Hidaka what he is doing alone in such a place. Hidaka improvises, saying he was contemplating a small adventure that piqued his interest. Based on his answer, William immediately jumps to the conclusion and asks if Hidaka is planning to visit the guild. This confirmation only deepens Hidaka's suspicions about this new world. Steeped in Isekai lore, he knew that when the summoned heroes go to another world, their starting dream is definitely to get themselves registered in a guild. Hidaka, without any other excuse in mind, goes along with the merchant's assumption and agrees that he intends to visit the guild. Sierra informs Hidaka that she will guide him once they arrive, and then asks about his class. Hidaka recalls the Serpent King's advice, but hesitates to lie, considering claiming to be a sorcerer or swordsman, but doubts Sierra would believe him. Lost in thought, Sierra prompts him again, and Hidaka admits truthfully that he is a healer. The merchant, considering Hidaka's class, asks if he would be open to joining another party. Hidaka responds affirmatively, stating he would certainly try if the opportunity arises. Sierra assures Hidaka that she will assist him in finding a party, but warns him that the healer class is widely regarded as one of the most challenging paths for adventurers. In addition to promising her support, Sierra encourages Hidaka, suggesting that as a healer, he could become an inspiration to others who lack confidence in their own classes. Hidaka admires Sierra's optimism. She advises him further, recommending that he learn swordsmanship, since he cannot use offensive magic. Hidaka is surprised, having heard that healers are often considered useless. Sierra corrects him, explaining that anyone can learn to wield swords, axes, or bows regardless of their class. Curious, Hidaka asks if healers can also learn offensive spells like fireballs or lightning. Sierra informs him that it would be challenging for a healer, as their magic typically focuses on supportive roles, while sorcerers possess different types of magical abilities. Hidaka then questions Sierra about whether he can use any magic spells with his attribute enhancement technique. Sierra patiently explains the stark difference between magic attributes and enhancement attributes, delving into intricate details, but Hidaka struggles to grasp the concept. Finally, Sierra simplifies it, suggesting that he can use his skill to enhance his sword, which becomes a compelling reason for him to consider learning swordsmanship. Intrigued, Hidaka expresses interest, prompting Sierra to offer to teach him swordsmanship if he's willing. As they discuss magic and details, they halt at a small village named Tanya. The merchant announces they'll take a brief break here. Stepping out of the carriage, they encounter a commotion. The village has been raided by thieves who have abducted all the women. The village elder apologizes to William, explaining their inability to host them properly. The elder invites William and his guard to rest, while the villagers prepare to retrieve their abducted women. The villagers are visibly determined and angry about the situation. The village head informs Hidaka and the others about the different methods of operation between thieves and bandits, emphasizing the urgency due to the thieves' connections to slave dealers. Sierra suggests to the village head that they should go instead of the villagers. Initially reluctant because they are guests, the village head is reassured by William, who insists they can handle the situation. William assigns his escort, Keith, to accompany Sierra, confident in his abilities to assist her. Sierra, assured of her strength, prepares herself and asks the villagers if anyone knows where the thieves have taken the women. A young boy named Jack steps forward, explaining that during the attack, most of the village adults were away, so he took it upon himself to track the thieves. The young boy explains that after climbing the mountain, he discovered his sister, mother, and other village women locked in cages. The village head shares with Sierra that Jack's mother and sister are his only family, and he's deeply concerned for their safety after today's events. He insists on guiding Sierra to their location, hoping to rescue them and the other villagers. The scene shifts as Jack leads Sierra to where the thieves are holding the villagers captive. Upon arrival, Sierra urges Jack to return home, warning him of the danger. The obedient boy complies and leaves. Hidaka experiences a sense of deja vu, feeling like he's in a game scenario once again. Sierra instructs Hidaka to remain behind and support them due to his role as a healer. She assures him that she will signal him once she and Keith have dealt with the guards around the perimeter. Despite knowing his superior level and skills, Hidaka decides to bide his time and observe the capabilities of the White King's knights for now. The scene returns to the Tanya village, where an air of anxious anticipation prevails. The village elder and William exchange glances, silently hoping for the safe return of Sierra and the others, who ventured into the bandits' hideout. William, as pragmatic as ever, expresses confidence in Keith's leadership, while acknowledging Sierra's youth. Despite her age, he reassures the elder that she is a member of the Royal Knights, a testament to her skill and bravery. Meanwhile, inside the bandit stronghold, Sierra and Keith move with practiced efficiency. They dispatch the guards swiftly and precisely, their movements coordinated and fluid. Relief floods the faces of the captive village women as they realize their freedom is at hand. With the opportunity created by the dwindling numbers of bandits, Sierra instructs Hidaka to ensure the women follow them quietly. As they prepare to depart, they discover the remaining thieves, standing ominously behind them, realizing they have fallen right into their trap. The thieves' leader asserts that nobody willingly lets their possessions be taken without resistance. Recognizing him, Sierra queries if he is Oliver Joe. With a nod and a smile, he confirms. Sierra recalls he was once a respected knight and a capable captain, but 2 years ago, he inexplicably massacred his entire company, before vanishing after setting the entire city ablaze. Oliver expresses gratitude to Sierra for taking the time to recognize him and mentions that, as she can see, he is now involved in the thieving trade. Sierra's face glistens with sweat as she appears perplexed about why someone of his caliber would opt for such a dubious path. In response, Oliver explains that he felt exploited by the king and deemed it futile to remain loyal to him. Sierra is horrified by Oliver's words and defends the current king, describing him as exceedingly generous. Oliver counters, questioning why the king's orders, no matter how nonsensical, are always absolute. He explains that those he killed were feeble and hollow individuals who, like Sierra, had pledged allegiance to their corrupt king. He remarks on Sierra's value, implying she could fetch a high price. Commanding his thieves to act, Oliver orders them into action. Sierra calls out to Hidaka and confronts the thieves in battle. Utilizing her ice wind storm magic technique, she swiftly incapacitates most of them. Observing her prowess, Oliver comments on her youthful appearance, but acknowledges her royal knight armor. One of the thieves lunges towards Sierra with a dagger, but Keith swiftly intervenes, using his magic technique to effortlessly neutralize the threat. He urges Sierra to stay cautious and assists her in subduing the remaining enemies. Together, Sierra and Keith overcome the last of the thieves. Expressing disdain for his underlings' incompetence, Oliver resorts to underhanded tactics. He unveils Jack, tightly bound with ropes. Sierra is puzzled by the boy's presence with Oliver. With a villainous laugh, Oliver taunts Sierra, attributing Jack's predicament to her decision to let him return alone when he was just a child. He mocks her for what he perceives as naivety in leaving a child vulnerable in enemy territory. Frustrated, Sierra confronts Oliver, questioning his identity as a former knight who once protected people, and demands that he release the child. Jack, tears streaming down his face, cries out for his mother to save him. Oliver, infuriated by the noise, yanks Jack's hair forcefully, silencing him. He complains about the piercing sound and how it's raising his blood pressure. With daggers poised at the boy's neck, Oliver threatens to kill everyone. Facing a dire situation, Sierra, feeling helpless, shouts that she cannot stand by. Hidaka, prioritizing the child's life over caution, decides to act against Cheon's advice. Though hiding his strength might have been safer, he opts to rescue the boy. Hidaka swiftly employs his flash skill, disarming Oliver in an instant and driving his own dagger into his neck. Oliver notices something peculiar and suddenly dies in excruciating pain. The little boy appears surprised and questions how Hidaka managed to arrive so quickly. Everyone is left with their mouths agape, bewildered by the recent events. Hidaka urges them to shake off their stupor and head back to the village, reminding them that everyone there would be worried about them. Keith gives Hidaka a smile, while Sierra is determined not to let Hidaka leave without an explanation. She demands to know how a healer like him could grab a dagger and stab it into someone's neck so swiftly. She accuses Hidaka of concealing things from her and insists that he show her his status menu. Hidaka declines her request, stating that it can wait until they return to the village. As Keith casts a suspicious glance at Hidaka, Hidaka remarks that his magic is truly remarkable. However, Keith asserts that it pales in comparison to his own magic. Despite having to reveal his strengths, Hidaka clenches his fist, feeling no regret for his actions. When they all return, the villagers are overjoyed to see their women and families back. Hidaka's eyes meet those of a girl standing alone, prompting him to ask if she has no family to return to. The other women inform Hidaka that the girl is not from their village and was already in one of the cages when they were captured. The women further explain that they tried to ask the girl who she was, but she remained silent and unresponsive. Sierra speculates that the girl might just be scared and reassures her that she will take care of her, urging her not to worry. She promises the girl that once they reach the capital city the next day, she will send a request letter to the town hall to arrange for her return to her hometown. To ease the girl's discomfort, Sierra also offers her the option to go back on her own if she prefers not to travel with them. The girl quietly responds, questioning what she should do if she doesn't even know how to find her way home. Although no one hears her faint reply, Hidaka, acting like a gentleman, assures her that he will take her to her home. As Sierra advises Hidaka to be a bit more gentle with his words, she notices the girl clutching Hidaka's cloak. Sierra wonders if Hidaka knows the girl and leaves her with him so she can discuss matters with the villagers. As Hidaka stands there, the girl suddenly says that she doesn't like a certain person. Hidaka is surprised that the girl can talk and asks her why she has been silent all this time. In response, the girl shares her name, telling him it is Totrika, but that he can call her Toa. For some reason, Hidaka feels compelled to be honest with her and reveals that his name is Hidaka Masamune, though he insists she call him Nito in front of everyone else. Hidaka then asks how she was captured by the thieves. Toa explains that she doesn't remember much. All she recalls is arriving from somewhere, finding herself in the forest, and then being taken away by the thieves. Hidaka inquires if the girl knows where her home is, but she shakes her head, indicating she has no clue. Hidaka reassures her that he will try to help her find it, which makes her feel relieved. Meanwhile, Keith and William prepare for their departure from the village the next morning. Keith busies himself packing luggage, while William leans against a cart, smoking a pipe. William praises Sierra for her skills and asks Keith if she meets his expectations. Keith agrees, remarking that her murderous intent was impressive. He then adds that the main problem lies with the healer boy. William comments that Nito will have a hard time settling in as an adventurer with a class like his. However, Keith disagrees, telling William that Nito is one hell of a monster. William is shocked, because if Keith says such things about someone, that person must be extraordinary. As night falls, everyone gathers in the village central hall for a bonfire, celebrating their victory. As morning arrives, they prepare to depart. Sierra gives Hidaka a death stare for hiding his skills from her, while Toa still appears sleepy. As they resume their journey, Hidaka hopes Sierra might forget about it, but she demands an explanation. She questions how he was able to defeat Oliver when he is supposedly just a healer class, clearly not in the mood to let Hidaka go, without a satisfactory answer. With an air of disbelief, she asks if Hidaka is really a healer. Given the standards of this world, even Hidaka would be confused if he truly is a healer. Hidaka replies that he truly is a healer and shows his status menu. Fortunately for Hidaka, he learned the skill of Mimic's Life while in the dungeon. By using this skill on his status menu, his name appears as Nito with very low stats. Hidaka only shows his flash skill with an altered name, thinking it will satisfactorily explain things to Sierra. After seeing his status menu, Sierra is easily deceived and apologizes for doubting Hidaka. She fails to notice that Hidaka mentioned a reinforcement skill, which he forgot to mimic. Hidaka reassures her not to worry as long as she understands. In a short time, they arrive at their destination, Razahausen. Hidaka is amazed by the royal capital. As they enter, they go their separate ways. William heads off to deliver his goods to the castle, while Sierra takes Hidaka and Toa to the guild. Hidaka finds a tavern in the guild hall, and notes that it resembles the ones he used to see in anime. Sierra guides Hidaka to the counter where his status can be accessed. Hidaka hopes that his Mimic's Life magic skill will help him blend in, as he cannot afford to stand out. Luckily for him, it works, and he gets registered with the guild. Sierra then asks Hidaka about his plans now that he's registered. Hidaka suggests to Toa that they could explore the town to gather clues about her hometown, but she seems uninterested in doing so at the moment. Hidaka then asks Toa if she would like to register with the guild as well. Toa nods in agreement. Suddenly, a drunken C-rank adventurer approaches Hidaka disgustingly and asks him to share the girls with him, referring to Sierra and Toa. Hidaka politely apologizes and clarifies that they are his friends. The grunt becomes angry and pressures Hidaka. Meanwhile, within the guild, everyone chats about how Hidaka will fare as the weakest class. The grunt and his companions urge Hidaka to abandon his friends, asserting that as C-ranked adventurers, they can better care for themselves. This infuriates Sierra, who rebukes the grunt for his rudeness. Undeterred, the grunt continues to provoke them, urging Sierra to join them. Just then, the guild door swings open, and two individuals dressed like soldiers enter. One of them, named Annette, bows to Sierra with evident relief at her safe return. She asks Sierra about the people accompanying her. Sierra introduces Hidaka and Toa, explaining to Annette that they are her newfound companions whom she met on her journey to the capital. She mentions her promise to guide them to the guild, which brought her here. Annette expresses gratitude to Hidaka and Toa for looking after Sierra, and then invites Sierra to accompany her to the castle. The grunt becomes angry and grabs Sierra by the collar, demanding her attention. This infuriates Sierra, who condemns his rudeness and swiftly knocks him to the ground, causing embarrassment in front of the entire guild. Hidaka advises Sierra to release the grunt, noting his weakness. Sierra bids farewell to Hidaka, leaving him with Toa, and assures Toa that she can seek help at the Ekarlat residence if she gets into trouble. As Sierra departs, Hidaka leaves the guild hall with Toa. Uncertain of his next steps, he realizes he lacks any money. While walking, they are stopped by a shopkeeper, who notices Hidaka's distinctive clothes and learns he is traveling penniless. Commenting on his dirty attire, she proposes swapping them for new clothes and offers Towa the same. Hidaka hesitates, concerned about his worn-out garments. However, the shopkeeper, with an eye for quality, reassures him that his clothes are made from high-quality fabric and can be easily exchanged. Hidaka recalls that this is his high school uniform and decides to accept her offer. After all, who doesn't dislike school uniforms? As the shopkeeper prepares new clothes for him and Towa, she asks about Hidaka's class, curious if he is a warrior or a hunter. She is surprised when she discovers that Hidaka is actually a healer. She prepares a robe for Hidaka along with a pouch for herbs. Hidaka questions whether healers are expected to carry herbs. The shop lady reacts with surprise that Hidaka isn't aware of this, explaining that healers often rely on herbs because they typically use weaker healing magic. Therefore, they tend to carry as many healing items as possible. When does being a healer mean you can't even heal properly? The shop lady then asks about Towa's class. Towa reveals that she is a paladin, which surprises the shop lady. To prove her claim, Towa shows them her status menu. It confirms that she is indeed a paladin, and also reveals that she belongs to the demon race. Hidaka, as usual, seems unfamiliar with the paladin class. The shop lady explains that paladins are also known as magic knights because they can utilize abilities from two different classes, magic and swordsmanship. As the shop lady mentions that Towa is from the demon race, Hidaka recalls hearing about demons from the king, whose mages summoned him here. Sweat drips down Hidaka's face as he nervously asks the shop lady about the demon race. Initially frustrated by his question, she remembers he's a customer and calms down. She explains that according to myths, demons live beyond the great forest and are born with exceptional talents for magic powers. The shop lady finds both their race and class to be mismatched and asks about their connection. However, Hidaka doesn't respond, as he himself is unsure. As the shop lady helps them change clothes, she also includes a bread sword for Towa. Hidaka expresses gratitude for her kindness, but she modestly insists that all these items together are inexpensive compared to his clothes. She also gives him a small bag of coins as a token of appreciation. As Hidaka prepares to leave, the shop lady, noting his cluelessness, advises him to protect Towa and keep her identity hidden. She warns that some people may be hostile towards demons, while others might try to kidnap her. Hidaka heeds Sharon's advice and promises to visit again, thanking her for everything. After changing into their new clothes, he takes Towa to a nearby restaurant. As Towa sips on some juice, Hidaka gazes at her, marveling at the unexpected encounter with a non-human race, so early in this new world. Compared to the adventurers he saw in the guild hall, Towa's level appears to be the highest he's encountered. The highest level he saw among guild members was nearly 23. Ever since Hidaka glanced at Towa's status menu, he has been curious if her skill, Demon's Eye of Truth, functions similarly to his own. With some hesitation, he asks Towa if she can see his status. Towa politely confirms that she can. As Hidaka anticipated, she is able to see it, so he inquires about her thoughts on what she sees. Towa responds that she finds it rather unusual. Hidaka's expression turns serious as he realizes that he is so powerful that even a formidable creature like a demon finds his status menu abnormal. Intrigued, Hidaka decides to learn more about Towa and asks her how she got caught despite her strength. Towa blushes slightly and admits she got scared. Curious about her background, Hidaka then asks where she was before coming to the forest. Towa replies that she was in her castle. This revelation leaves Hidaka confused and anxious. He suspects Towa might be from a noble family, or even a princess, but he isn't sure if social statuses exist in the demon race. He asks Towa what she was doing there, and she replies that she wasn't doing anything in particular. She was essentially confined there with a strict schedule to follow. Towa explains that her mornings were dedicated to practicing swordsmanship and magic, while evenings were spent waiting for her family. Growing weary of waiting, she would occasionally play with pixies in the garden or explore the treasure room. The castle was surrounded by imposing walls, and she was never permitted to venture beyond them. Hidaka relates to Towa, recognizing that she, like himself, is apprehensive about the outside world and its potential dangers. They both are experiencing this new world for the first time, navigating its challenges and uncertainties together. Hidaka is initially puzzled by Towa's unusual attachment and her constant desire to stay close to him. However, later in the story, the reason becomes clear when Towa reveals that she stumbled upon a mirror, through which she could witness everything Hidaka experienced in the dungeon. She admired Hidaka for his bravery and courage, which sparked her fondness for him. One day, while observing through the mirror, she was unexpectedly pulled into it and became ensnared by thieves. After filling their stomachs, Hidaka and Toa undertake a goblin hunting mission to earn enough money to cover their expenses. Once they've gathered sufficient teeth as proof of their quest, they take a break to rest. While collecting teeth, Hidaka asks Toa why monsters, or Mamano as some call them, don't disappear when killed. Toa explains that this phenomenon only occurs in dungeons, and furthermore, goblins are considered monsters rather than Mamano. Hidaka puzzles over whether monsters and Mamano are distinct entities. Toa explains to Hidaka that Mamano refers to intelligent beings capable of speaking human languages, while monsters lack these traits. Hidaka recalls Sharon and wonders if the Serpent King was a Mamano rather than a mere monster. After collecting the goblin teeth, they head to the guild counter where the receptionist verifies their proof and awards them their reward money. Hidaka notices Toa yawning and asks if the quest wore her out. He suggests waiting a bit longer to find an inn where they can rest. Fortunately, the receptionist recommends a luxurious yet affordable inn, making it their lucky day. As they prepare to leave, a distasteful man appears, clumsily trying to play the role of a prince. He asks for Toa's name, but Hidaka intervenes, stating that she is with him. The man questions Hidaka's newness in the guild and belittles him for only exterminating goblins. Hidaka, unfazed, asks if everyone in the guild likes to meddle in others' affairs. Attempting to leave, Hidaka is persistently confronted by the man, who tells Toa she'll find nothing with a low-ranked adventurer. He demands Hidaka to be quiet and tries to impress Toa with his supposed status. Mocking Hidaka, he predicts that as a healer, Hidaka's journey will end before it even starts, boasting about staying at a cheap inn that night. As the man's behavior turns inappropriate, Hidaka urges Toa to leave with him. However, Toa becomes enraged and unleashes a thunderous lightning strike on the man. Ignoring Hidaka's attempts to calm her, she storms out of the guild hall. Hidaka follows after her, asking her to wait. Toa confronts Hidaka, questioning why he didn't stand up for her or respond to the man, especially since he is strong enough to do so. Hidaka explains that he tried to avoid creating a scene, feeling the man wasn't worth the trouble. Seeing tears in Toa's eyes, he realizes that despite only knowing him for a few days, she cares deeply for him. Hidaka tries to comfort her, explaining that revenge isn't everything, and he appreciates her support. He promises to try to get angry if something like this happens again. Hidaka also explains to Toa that he doesn't want to draw more attention, because healers are not typically seen as strong. Toa calms down, smiling at Hidaka, and reassures him that she will continue to support him and stand up for him when needed. Reflecting on the friends he has made in this new life, Hidaka feels grateful. He realizes that even after he achieves his revenge, there will always be a life waiting for him. For the first time in his life, Hidaka feels as though he has been saved by someone else. The scene shifts as Hidaka and Toa enjoy a feast. Hidaka compliments the delicious meat and asks Toa if she has ever eaten something like this before. Toa explains that this is her first time trying such food. She recounts how she has always eaten a specific meal that her mother prepared, supposedly to enhance her magic strength. However, she finds this meal much tastier and more nourishing. Excited by Toa's responses, Hidaka becomes even more curious about her. Toa relishes the meal and expresses a willingness to take on more missions if it means they can continue enjoying such food. Hidaka mentions his plans to take on more quests the next day, but Toa shows no hesitation, stating that she is comfortable with whatever they decide. After finishing their meal, they check the room they've rented for the night and find it satisfactory. Hidaka suggests sleeping on the floor, but Toa insists they share the bed, assuring him they can sleep on opposite sides. Hidaka warns her that he tends to toss and turn in his sleep, but Toa brushes it off, expressing her complete trust in him. As they extinguish the candle, the room darkens, and they settle down comfortably for the night. The next morning, Sierra arrives and wakes Hidaka with noisy knocks on the door. Rubbing his eyes, Hidaka asks why she's there so early. Sierra deadpans that it's almost noon, and he's still asleep. Hidaka asks Sierra how she knew where he was, and she explains that she learned from the guild receptionist. Sierra expresses interest in teaching Hidaka swordsmanship, but he shows some reluctance. Instead, she invites both Hidaka and Toa to have breakfast with her. During breakfast, Sierra mistakenly assumes why Toa is staying with Hidaka and confronts him about it. Upon realizing her mistake, she apologizes for the confusion. She then asks Hidaka why Toa calls him Hidaka Masamune. Hidaka explains that since starting his journey, he has adopted Nito as his alias. He reveals that Toa accidentally used this name in front of others. Sierra finds Hidaka's real name a bit strange and asks if it is his Jikoku name. Confused, Hidaka admits he has no idea what she means. Sierra explains that Jikoku is a country across the sea from the Vanom continent, and she recalls people from there using names similar to his. Intrigued by Jikoku's skills, Hidaka makes a mental note to visit him sometime in the future. The encounter sparks a question in Sierra's mind, and she asks Hidaka about his plans for the day. With a gleam in her eye, she offers to teach him swordsmanship. Hidaka, however, reveals his financial woes, mentioning his intention to pick up a quest at the guild to earn some money. Sensing an opportunity, Sierra inquires if she could join him. She emphasizes her value as an A-rank adventurer, highlighting the possibility of securing a quest with a significantly higher reward. On their way to the guild, Sierra explains to Hidaka that every adventurer is assigned a grade based solely on their achievements. She details that the grades range from the lowest, F, to the highest, SS currently. Hidaka and Toa can only undertake quests up to the E rank. However, with Sierra accompanying them, they can potentially take on quests of much higher rank. Curious, Hidaka asks Sierra why she, as a royal knight, also works as an adventurer. Sierra reveals that all royal knights in their state are required to register as adventurers. Hidaka wonders aloud if it's acceptable for a knight like her to frequently visit the guild in this capacity. Sierra reassures Hidaka not to worry, explaining that most people are unaware of her true identity as a knight and pose no threat to her. She emphasizes that she will accompany him not as a knight, but solely as an adventurer. Arriving at the Adventurers Guild, they both scan the quest board. Unlike the protagonists of many isekai adventures, who seem to magically understand the language of their new world, Hidaka faces a frustrating barrier. Most written text and spoken language remain frustratingly indecipherable to him, with the exception of status menus and a few other cryptic fragments. As they approach the guild quest board, a particular quest catches Hidaka's eye. It features a picture of a peculiar monster he's never encountered before. Unable to decipher the details himself, he turns to Sierra with a questioning look, silently pointing toward the quest for clarification. Sierra explains to Hidaka that the quest is for a Kelane, a large beast with 2 horns that resides in the forest. She asks if he's interested in taking the quest, and suggests grabbing the notice from the board to register for it. Sierra then proposes stopping by a shop across the street for a bit, and Hidaka agrees without objection. At the shop, which turns out to be the same one where Hidaka exchanged his clothes, Sierra purchases Catherine's medicine. She explains that they'll need it to protect their ears from Kelane's voice, which has a paralyzing effect on the body. As they proceed on their quest, the shop lady recognizes Hidaka and Toa. Sierra expresses surprise upon learning that Toa is a paladin. Along the way, she tells Hidaka that having the paladin class is extremely rare, and only a few are fortunate enough to possess it. She mentions that there is only one person in the entire country known to have the paladin class. As they venture into a forest, they encounter some injured adventurers. The adventurers explain that they were searching for orcs when suddenly, not just orcs but also goblins and hunting wolves started fleeing from something. They decided to retreat, but were stunned to see what was causing the monsters to flee. The injured adventurers explain that the monster they encountered was a Kelane, but unusually, its entire body is glowing with light. They note that despite having seen Kelane before, this one is clearly different. Sierra, showing her knowledge, asks if the Kelane they saw was covered in shimmering light particles, to which they confirm. Suddenly, the Kelane emerges from behind the trees, having apparently followed the adventurers to their location. Sierra instructs the injured adventurers to retreat to safety, and leaves the beast to her and Hidaka. When Hidaka asks if it's a Kelane, Sierra corrects him, stating that it's not a regular Kelane but a newt Kelane. Sierra explains to Hidaka that while defeating a regular Kelane is an A-grade request, a newt Kelane, unlike its usual B-ranked version, is classified as an A-rank monster and marked as a dangerous request. As the newt Kelane appears, Sierra expresses concern that her mana circulation has become unstable, likely due to its paralyzing voice. She asks Hidaka if she can rely on him if she gets into trouble. Hidaka reassures her of his support and calls on Toa to assist Sierra as she prepares for a formidable battle.